All right. So, what I want to talk about today, parenting and recovery, is we're going to talk about discipline and punishment. We're going to recap what we did last week. Okay? And what I want to talk about first is, what do you want for your kids? Like, when you think about your kids growing up, when you think about them getting to be adults, what character qualities, skills, what do you want for them? Amber?
Honesty.
Nice, yes. And you know what? With honesty, that's not just cash register honesty. We want them to develop the capacity to be honest with themselves, right? Not all of us have that capacity when we get sober. I know for me, it's something that was learned. I was shown that.
And we don't want them to learn to be scandalous to get their way is kind of where I'm going.
So, not being manipulative. So, honest with yourself about yourself. And you know, the truth is that with alcoholism and drug addiction, one of the biggest problems is the inability to be honest with yourself about yourself. First, about your alcohol or your drugs, or you're using men, or you're using food, or whatever you're using. That's what the first thing that we don't want to be honest with ourselves about, right? But then in recovery, after we get honest about that piece, our first step piece, right? Then, how about everything else? You know, we have a difficult time being honest with ourselves about ourselves. That's where sponsorship is going to come into play for you. Does that make sense? They help us to learn to be honest with ourselves about ourselves. Does that make sense? And so we want to teach our kids how to be honest with themselves about themselves. Is that right? So that they don't try to manipulate to get their way. And because manipulation is very dishonest and very self-centered.
Before we get sober, I know not just me, but there's other people. I don't even like to admit it, but in certain ways I taught my kid how to be manipulative. Mm-hmm. And that's a hard thing now to unteach.
Yes.
Because it's having like a bad, I don't know, it's...
Absolutely. And how old's your kid now?
Ways, 3.
3. You got plenty of time. Yeah. Kids learn the best from our role modeling. Uh-huh. Okay, that's the best way that they learn. So over time, as you change, they will learn. Yeah. You know? Okay, Brianne, you wanted to say something?
Respect.
Thank you. Respect. Nice. For self and others, right? Right. Yeah. Independence. Yes. To be, I can't spell up here. Independent. Is it dance or dense?
Dense.
D-E-N-C-E.
Okay, because I always spell it. I never know. That one is always one that perplexes me. And I look it up all the time, and I always keep coming back to, I don't remember. Integrity. Oh my gosh. Don't you want kids that have some integrity? Do you know what integrity is? I didn't know the word until recovery, okay? But integrity is the ability to be the same person in whatever room I'm in. Right. That I'm not changing for you and changing for you and changing to make you like me and changing to get my way here. Right? Integrity is really the capacity, developing the capacity to be who I am. It's a degree of honesty. Right? It has to do with my character. And I'll tell you what, integrity did not come naturally to me. It was hard fought. Mostly in the amends process. You know, mess up, you fess up, man. And I got to make things right. And that's how it is. Does that make sense? So yes, absolutely. Integrity is vital. I want my kids to have integrity. Okay.
All right.
Thank you. Spell checker, when you're up at a board, it always breaks. You're like, what is that? How do you spell that? Okay, yep.
Appropriate love.
Thank you. Because love is an action. Love is not a feeling. I had one of my nieces post, she's an adult, and she posted on Facebook last night that love is the best feeling. And I said, well, except that love's not a feeling. Did you know that? Love is an action. The definition of love that I was given by one of my mentors that died, I think he was 40 years sober when he died. Thank God for him, because he put me on this path, right? But he said, he gave me the definition of love. Real love, which is not attachment. A lot of times what we think is love is attachment. This need, this unhealthy love, right? It's attachment. It's necessity. It's not real love. Because love is not about me. Real love is the active care and concern. Do you hear the word active? That means action. It's what I'm doing, right? The active care and concern for the growth and well-being of that which we love, which we say we love, right? So you will know that I love you by how I treat you, okay? And love is an action. So conversely, we will know if we are being loved by people by how they are treating us. If people are abusive and controlling, and they call, oh, he's just jealous because he loves me. Or I'm just jealous because I love him so much. No, you're just jealous because you're riddled with fear. That has nothing, and insecurity, and attachment, and delusion to think that that is somehow love. Love is the most freeing thing because you don't need somebody to be in the room with you when you love them. You would like them to because you love them, but you don't need them to be okay. Doesn't mean you're not sad when they're gone, right? But love is not a self-centered thing, right? And you'll learn and grow about that as you learn and grow in recovery. Just trust me on that. If you stay on this path and you become sponsored and you learn to live differently, right? Because all of these principles that you learn in treatment, in recovery rooms, you will learn that it's not about you, and you will learn how to get past your extreme self-centeredness, right? We learn that all of these principles that we talk about are contrary to our nature, right? When I came in, manipulation was like, it was who I was. I had no integrity. I had no appropriate love. I had attachment. I had jealousy. I had anger. I had resentment. I was pure manipulation. I was so manipulative. I didn't know how to stop manipulating because it was a part of who I was. It's how I responded to everything. Everything I responded to with my survival skills. I get afraid, boom, I revert to type, which is self-centeredness, surviving, character defects, whatever you want to call them, right? Okay, what else do you want for your kids?
I'm glad you started talking about that. That's something that everybody needs to hear.
Yeah, thank you. It is. It's important. And don't worry, you won't get it right today. But you'll learn lessons in that way. Do you hear what I'm saying? You'll meet a guy and you go, oh, it's God's will. And then you'll get hurt again and you'll make decisions based on self. You'll see the signs and you'll ignore them. And you'll make decisions based on self. And you'll place yourself in a position to be hurt. And then you'll go, dang it, I didn't listen. This just happened with me. Not with a guy, but with a gal that I was working with. And I made decisions based on self years ago. And it placed me in a position to be hurt this week. Does that make sense? What do you want to say?
Good education be one?
Yes, absolutely. Good education. And whatever that means to my kids, I personally would like it if my kids would go to a 4-year school. Or, my oldest is super smart. I wish he would become a doctor or a psychologist. He'd be really great. That's like 8-10 years of school, something like that. I don't really know. But I'd really like for him to at least get a master's degree, man. Because I stopped at my bachelor's. And when I was getting ready to go back to school to get my PhD, because there was a master's PhD program together at University of Iowa, great counseling psychology program, and I got pregnant with my twins. Are you kidding me? My gosh, my life changed. I don't think I ever want to be a doctor now because I don't have time. Okay, what else?
Would loyalty be with loyalty?
Loyalty, yes. Loyalty in the correct way. Just like it's appropriate love, appropriate loyalty. Right? Not misguided loyalty. I mean, how many times have you had misguided loyalty, right? So we want to have appropriate loyalty. Yeah? Structure, so that they can learn to be structured and have some sort of discipline, right? Right.
And I think being a good role model too.
Right. So that they are walking the walk. So that they are role modeling. What kind of skills do you want them to be role modeling?
I guess all the above.
Right, but what other kind of skills other than what we've listed?
Like behaviors and stuff.
Right, yeah, what kind of
Patience.
skills? Patience, yes,
Sharing.
right.
Sharing is caring.
Manners.
How about anger management skills?
Yeah. How about emotional management skills?
Yes, absolutely. Emotional regulation, we call that.
There you go.
Communication.
Yes! We want them to have these skills, right? They don't happen by accident, right? These are skills which is going to take us into our next piece as soon as we get this done.
Self-awareness and caring concern for others.
Yes, self-awareness. Yeah, self-awareness and other awareness. Care and concern for others, not self-awareness to the deficit of, right, to the extent that I'm taking away from my care and concern for others, and not care and concern for others to the deficit of the care for self, right? Because I was taught God first, creator, higher power, whatever you want, whatever works for you, and then me, and then those about me in order of importance, right? Do you know what that means? It means that I have to take care of this primary relationship first, which is everything in my recovery, right? Sponsorship, taking care of that primary relationship, because if I don't take care of this, I can't be out here and take care of you. And if I don't take care of my physical body and take care of my physical needs, right? We talked about that last week with hungry, angry, lonely, tired. If we don't take care of our physical needs, it's much more difficult to be spiritually fit, right? And so I have to take care of my physical and emotional needs so that I have something to offer to my children, to my family, right? To my people. Does that make sense? So I have something to bring into the world. Does that make sense? So yes, self-awareness and care and concern for others. Okay. The other thing is that our kids don't, if we want our kids to have anger management skills, we've got to teach them. The biggest way that we teach our kids is in role modeling. And actually, I can write that over here. I want to use a different color. Sorry about that. That's the biggest way that we teach our kids, is to role model for them. If we want them to have anger management skills, then when shit don't go our way, right? When stuff doesn't go our way, what are we going to do?
Not killing Amber.
Right, not pulling ambers. That means,
Yeah.
when things don't go my way, am I gonna crazy on the phone gossiping? Do you know what she did? Da, 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 da. Do your kids watch that? Are they watching the energy you're bringing into the room? The judgment, the criticism, the anger, the resentment, the fear, right? And you're role modeling for them how to handle problems by creating more problems than what was originally there. Does that make sense? You're, instead of taking a problem from here and taking it down, you're taking a problem from here and making it worse. And you're showing them how to do that. But yet they throw a toy because they didn't get their way and they get in trouble. But how have you shown them how to handle it when things don't go your way? If you're like me, things don't go my way all day long. Like things pop up. There's traffic. There's uncountable things that go wrong in a day. When I say go wrong, I just mean don't go according to my script that I've laid out as to how it should be. Doesn't mean it's really wrong. Okay, so let's be clear. Because it just is what it is. Why do I need to get things my way all the time? Why do I have such an attachment to being right, to being heard, right? Why do I have that victim consciousness, right? I want my kids to be better than me. I want them to grow beyond where I've grown to. Does that make sense? So if I want my kids to have coping and calming skills, emotional regulation skills to handle all the big emotions that come up for them, I've got to show them. And that's hard when you come here and you've never learned those skills. The use of alcohol and drugs in response to life creates an environment where I do not have to learn coping and calming skills. I don't have to learn anger management skills. Oh, I'm so mad. Smoke a joint. Oh God, I can't believe they did that. Go get drunk. Right? You hear what I'm saying? I feel sad, I feel bad, I feel great. In whatever response to whatever feeling I have, boom, substances. Does that make sense? So we have to find a way in recovery to go from here to here without putting something from out here into our body to take us there. And we have to start learning that our kids are not the problem with us, right? If we had recovery in 3 words or less, it would be, it's not them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's not them. It's not my kids. My kids aren't doing this to me. They're not doing it at me. The only thing that my kids do wrong is they act their age all day long. I really want you to remember that. The only thing that my kids do wrong is they act their age all day long. They're acting 4, they're acting 8, or they're acting 8 because I have 2 8-year-olds.
All day.
All day.
Are they boys or girls?
All boys.
Oh.
4 boys.
All day.
Okay, so here's the 4-year-old. The last week he has been just on a mission. Oh my Lord. I swear it's to drive me crazy, but no, I'm just kidding. We know that's not the case. He is just really acting 4. And he's really gotten his way a lot because he's the baby. He's the last kid, you know. We love him, and, you know, not that we don't love our other kids, but, you know, the last one is kind of like, oh. And so he's kind of gotten away with a lot. And he kind of thinks he's the alpha in the house. And
She's made it very clear. She's
yeah,
the
I'm
alpha.
starting to make it very clear. Yeah, he's got to get with the program here. But and so he with the twins, Jonathan and Jameson, Clay will scream, whine, yell when they don't do what he wants, right? Now, whether they're right or wrong is not really the issue, okay? Because sometimes I redirect them, but I have to address his behavior. I have to address his conduct, which looks like this. Well, what I could do is, what's a normal response for parents when they hear the kid screaming and yelling and whatever?
Stop
No,
yelling.
don't.
Stop yelling it. Knock it off. Yell back at them, right? How many times I gotta tell you? Quit yelling, right? Well, I'm yelling at the 4-year-old to tell them yelling is not the way to communicate when you're 4, but when you're 43, you can do it, right? So it's this mixed message. You can't yell, but I can. And so we're not really teaching them anything. And plus, we're not telling them what we want them to do. We're not teaching them the skill, right? So, remember last week I said that there's 2 things, if I could take them from your vocabulary, I would. And I could only think of one because I was going on 2 hours of sleep. One thing was, the one that I remembered last week was to be able to stop saying, if we could stop saying, how many times do I got to tell you?
How many times?
Don't.
How many times? Yeah, don't say that. Whoever told us we didn't have to tell them 3 times, 5 times, 20 times, right? But I want you to look at how you're telling them. I want you to look at what you're doing. Stop doing that, kid. Quit your yelling. How many times I got to tell you to quit your yelling, right? Or how about this? Whoa, 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 what's going on? Help them identify the problem. What's going on here? Well, he won't, da-da-da-da-da. You know, it's always like, well, why don't we take it down to here? You're talking up here, let's take it down to here. Because you can use it with them too when they're not listening. You've asked them 6 times to do something and you're at this appropriate level. I've said to my twins, sweethearts, listen up here. Mommy's asked you to do this 6 times. And don't exaggerate when you count how many times. Because we always want to add a couple. You know, you watch. You're like, I've only told you really 3 times, but I want to say 8. Or I've only really told you 3 times, but I'll say 4. Even though watch, I guarantee you your mind will want to up it. You know, well, maybe it's just me. But I doubt it.
I do it.
I think I'm in the right room here. So be honest when you recount, because otherwise it's a crazy making thing. Where you're like, they're like, no, I only heard 2 or 3, right? And we're saying 6 or 8. You hear what I'm saying? So be accurate when you're saying that. So I'll say to my kids, hey, I've asked you 3 times to pick up your backpacks and put away your shoes. I've been talking to you at this level right here. My voice is about ready to go up to here. And we all know that nobody likes to hear mom talk at this level. So I'm going to keep right here and I'm going to ask you to please put your stuff away, right? And then you can ask them to take their voice from here to here, right? You can ask them to take their voice from here.
They don't.
I try to keep working with them. That has always worked with my kids.
Oh.
But I've been working with them for years. They're 8.
I guess my question is like, I hear you, because I yell, but I don't want to yell. So if I try that and then I still don't get a response, and I say I'm about to go up to here,
You gotta be
do I
consistent.
raise
Well,
my
and
voice, or do I keep it at the level?
Well, I try to keep it at the level as long as I can. And you don't want to get into crazy woman mode where you're screaming crazy. But I'm just talking about putting a little more energy in my voice. I'm not talking about yelling.
Right.
I'm talking about moving from here to going to saying, I've asked you 3 times, to going, Jonathan, Jameson, come on, let's get it done. We've got to go. Right? That kind of thing. So it's just kind of, you hear what I'm saying? You just
Right.
kind of crank it up a little bit. But I'm not screaming and yelling, calling them names, acting all nutty. Right? Because if there's a crazy lady in the room, nobody can see themselves. All they see is the crazy lady. Oh, look at that crazy lady, you know. Nobody can take personal accountability. If you're like this with everybody in your house, just energetically, you're like, with everybody, all everybody can see is you. They can't go, wow, maybe I need to do this. It's a process.
Everybody can see is me?
Over time.
Oh, okay, I don't want people to
Perfect.
see me.
Over time, it's a process. So what you want to do is you say to the kid, okay, Clay, you're talking up here. Let's take it down to here. And then he tells me what's wrong. And I can say, okay, how would you communicate that to your brothers or tell that to your brothers? We use the word communicate in our house. How would you tell that to your brothers without yelling it at them, right? Visual. Use as many senses as you can when you're talking to your kids. You can get down at their level. You can have your hand on their shoulder. You can use, these visual things. Helps them a lot. I do this a lot with my kids. Whoa, whoa, whoa. That's like I surrender. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I come in peace, right? Rather than, right? I know you've done it. I've done it. You're going to listen to me. Doesn't work, right?
The power struggle.
Power struggle. When I engage in power struggle, it doesn't work. And so you can see how the first way, how many times do I got to tell you, and the yelling back at the 4-year-old and all that stuff, as compared to the teaching them the skill. What skills he lacking? Appropriate communication skills. Appropriate coping and calming skills. Let's take a deep breath. Let's take a deep breath and try this again. Can we start over? Right? And so then you're teaching them the skill rather than punishing them for not having the skill. Does that make sense? So that's the one thing I would love it if you could banish that from your vocabulary, which means if you hear yourself saying it, just stop and remember, which is like, how many times do I got to tell you? The other thing is, please, please, please don't say this to your kids. What's wrong with you? Right? What is wrong with you? Do not say that to your kids. Why do you not want to say what's wrong with you to your kids? Why don't you want to say that to them?
There ain't nothing wrong with them.
There ain't nothing wrong with them, first of all.
You don't want them to think that their feelings are not okay.
That you don't want them to think their feelings are not okay. You also don't want them to think that there's something wrong with them. When you say what's wrong with you, you're implying there's something wrong with them. And isn't life hard enough? I mean, isn't that something you've had to deal with so far in recovery, that feeling that something's wrong with me? If you haven't dealt with it yet, you will.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, trust me, we're dealing
Those
with it.
faulty belief systems that I'm not okay as I am, which is why I try to be different in every room I am, to be who you want me to be so you won't leave me. Right? So, we don't want to give kids a message, because remember, the only thing my kids do wrong is they act their age all day long, which means they're not doing anything wrong. Right? Does that make sense? So those are the 2 things I would like if you could banish from your vocabulary. Anything else on this list of what do I want for my kids? It's an excellent list. How about, did we say healthy? We alluded to it, but how about healthy body, mind, spirit? That's what I want for my kids. I want them to learn to be healthy and to be, to thine own self be true.
How about appreciation?
Appreciation. Yes, that's an excellent one, actually, because I can't talk and write at the same time. Alcoholism and drug addiction are diseases of chronic malcontent.
Yes, they are.
They're diseases of perception, because it's this chronic malcontent. The shine wears off everything. I am a depreciator instead of an appreciator. You know how your day will change in 5 minutes. If you look at everything you don't have, everything you lost, everything you don't have, everything you want, oh my God, you get depressed. Clinical, 10 minutes if that's all you think about. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh my God, I can't handle this life. I want out. Right? You hear what I'm saying? But you start, all you got to do is turn around and go, what do I have? Man, I got a beating heart. I'm above ground sucking air. That's good.
Gratitude,
Right?
gratitude.
It is. And gratitude is about my action. You'll know if I'm grateful for what I'm doing.
You've got a child that loves you.
And I got 4. Oh my God. Who knew that I would ever deserve one? Not that I ever deserved any of my kids. But sure glad I got them. I never wanted any when I was coming up. And certainly not when I was drinking. Didn't want a bunch of kids. Right? Drinking and doing all the other hell raising I was doing. Right? So, all right. Anything else you want to add to this? Self-worth. Good.
Self-esteem.
Yeah. Self-esteem is how I see myself. You know, I really, self-esteem changes, you know, depending on how I feel, I think. But something even deeper than self-esteem is self-respect and self-value, self-worth, valuing of self. For me, self-esteem kind of goes up and down because it's based on how I feel. Does that make sense? Whereas something that doesn't, something that's based on my actions is my self-value, my self-respect, right? When you think somebody else isn't respecting you, I'm not saying they are respecting you, but what I am saying is that you might want to look at how many times in a day you disrespect yourself. How many times in a day do you go against your morals and values? Does that make sense? Rather than looking at how they're not fulfilling the needs that you're unwilling to, they're not doing for you what you're unwilling to do for yourself.
Not to mention wrong.
Well, yeah, that's so valuing, self-valuing. Okay, so what I want to talk about now is I want to talk about, what did we talk about last week with, we'll do these real quick. Punishment and discipline. What's punishment?
Spanking.
Spanking.
Yelling.
Yelling is what we call verbal aggression.
Snatching them up.
Hands on.
Snatching them up, grabbing them, right? It's aggression, right? These are all very aggressive.
Hands on.
Time out.
Aggression acts. Well, discipline can be very hands-on too,
Well, it depends on
but
what
it's a
kind
different
It's
energy.
physically hands on though for punishment.
You can be
Right.
physically hands-on for discipline too.
What's that?
You can be physically hands-on for discipline too.
Right,
Just
right.
not
With the hand
aggressive.
on the shoulder.
Yeah, with the hand on the shoulder.
Taking
Actually, it
them by
works
the
a lot
hand and
better.
leading them away.
Yes, it actually works a lot better, especially with kids under 6, to be in the room with them. How well does it work to yell at your kids from the other room and tell them to do something?
Not well at all.
Not well at all.
Oh my
I have a
God.
20-year-old. It still doesn't work well for him,
We're
right?
recapping all the bad things.
Right,
that
but how many
this
times do you
morning.
say to your kids when they're in the other room trying to yell at you about something, quit trying to talk to me from the other room.
Like, come out here and talk
We're
to
yelling
me.
from
Come
the
out here
other
and talk.
room.
But yet, how many times do we do that? Shut up, right. It doesn't work. We have to watch if our actions are matching what we're saying. And if what we're saying is what we're doing, right? We know it doesn't work to yell from the other. So use humor with yourself. Don't get mad at yourself. When you notice you're yelling from the other room, just go, Erica, that still don't work, does it? You know, and then I have a little giggle at myself for trying something that doesn't work again.
Now I gotta
You know,
get up
and
do
then I
it
get,
again.
you know, walk my happy butt into the other room to talk with my kid, right? And it works even better. It doesn't even work as well when you're in this proximity. It works better to be right next to them, especially when they're little. Get down at their level, put your hand on their shoulder, that kind of thing. It's a lot more work, but it's a lot less work in the long run because it's more effective. And not only that, but you're teaching the kid the skill you want them to have. You're actually practicing healthy communication skills, right? Yeah.
How long is the attention span of a toddler, would you say, when it comes to things like, this morning I didn't work so well with her, I can't necessarily wait till she gets out of school to say I'm wrong, you know what I mean? So should I even address that or just continue to?
Yeah, when you do something wrong with your kids, here's what I've done. I don't know what you should do, but these are just guides for what I've learned in my job and what I've learned in my home, right? For what works well with me. And what I do is when I mess up, I fess up, and then I can role model that. That you don't have to hide when you've done something wrong.
So she will remember.
even after
though,
the day goes
like,
by?
That's what I'm saying. This morning, now she's in childcare till 5. Is her attention span long enough to even know what I'm talking about? Like, I know she'll still feel it.
Well, the most important thing, if she's 2, the most important thing is
Don't do it again.
to not do it again. Is to change your practice.
You're doing great.
Change your,
She's
you
still
know,
alive.
and the truth is that we're not done. You know, you're not done on your path, and she's only 2.
Tomorrow's a new day.
You know, and tomorrow's a new day. Now, don't take that as an excuse for bad behavior if you're having a bad day. Do not let yourself get away with that.
Look at her giving us the parent finger. And
Yeah. That was the parent finger of the parent. Do not let yourself get away with that. Seriously, very important. Do not lie to yourself about your conduct and how it affects your kids. If they say,
Right.
Mommy, I don't like, it gives me, one time Jameson, man, I was raising my voice at Jonathan, and they're identical twins. They're very hooked in. And I'm raising my voice at Jonathan because why? He's acting his age, and he isn't doing what I want.
to make your life
Do what I
better at
want
that
so
moment.
that I can be more comfortable. Do what I want so that I don't have to work so hard. Of course, I didn't have those. That's not what I was telling him because I was under the delusion that he really needed to change for me to be okay. I really believed what I was saying. And I'm like kind of railing on him a little bit, just have that energy in my voice. And Jameson goes, and they were like 6. This is a few years ago. Maybe they were 5. And Jameson goes, Mommy, it hurts my tummy when you talk to Jonathan that way. And you think I said,
I have goosebumps.
do you think that I said, yeah, goosebumps, right? I mean, and how could you ever, even if you're in anger or in rage, how can you take that out on that kid, right? When you notice, that is your point of power. When you notice, that is when you practice your 10th step. Continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. When these crop up, we ask God at once to remove them. We make amends quickly if we've harmed anyone, right? And we turn our thoughts to someone. We can talk to somebody if we can. If I'm yelling at my kids, you better believe I'm on the phone with somebody to say, I'm not proud of this, but this is what I did. That degree of accountability changed me. I don't want to say this is what I'm getting away with in my house when nobody's watching. I never wanted to say that, but that's how I stopped yelling at my 20-year-old when he was little, when I got sober. You hear what I'm saying? That's how I changed, was by when I mess up, I fess up, man. And I'm not just fessing up to them. I say, oh, Jameson, you are so right. Mommy is so wrong to talk to Jonathan like that. What should I do? And he goes, you should tell him you are sorry. And I said, you're right, I should. And we all went over and we gave Jonathan a hug, and Mommy shouldn't have talked to you like that. It's really hard to address the discipline of whatever it was that they were doing wrong because you've lost your opportunity to teach it.
When you start
You've lost the
screaming.
kid. They've shut down. Now they are forced to use survival skills to survive their parent. You hear what I'm saying? It's very important. They're forced to use them so that they don't feel hurt on the inside, right? You have to watch aggressive behavior with your kids. If your conduct is not bringing this into their lives and into their spirit and helping them to develop these things, you have to be honest with what you're doing in the home. Does that make sense? When you engage in aggressive behavior with your kids, when I engage in aggressive behavior with my kids, I mean, I'm not a perfect parent. I know this stuff and I still err. And guess what? Every time I err, I come in and tell you, don't I? Like, guess what? I remember a couple years ago, I came in on a Wednesday morning and I said, guess what? I just yelled at my kids this weekend, so you don't have to, because it still don't work. I tried it. You don't need to. But when you're using aggression with kids, you lose the opportunity to discipline them because you've already been aggressive with them. Do you hear what I'm saying? You've already crossed that line and punished them more severely than whatever it was required. Does that make sense? And I'm talking about those things when they're acting their age. Don't punish kids for acting 8. Don't punish kids for acting 2. Use humor. I say to Clay all the time, "Are you 4?" Now his new thing is he told the when he went to a doctor's appointment with me a few weeks ago, he told her he was 18. "No, I'm 18. I'm 18," he says. And she's like, "Really?" And she's like, "Woo." He's like, "Yep, I'm 18. He's not 4." But I'll say, "Are you 4?" And now he's 100. This week he's 100. "No, I'm 100." So you can tell how much I have to use that because I have to remind myself he's 4. I keep telling the 8-year-olds, "Why are you having a power struggle with a 4-year-old? He's not 8. He doesn't understand what you're saying to him. He's just going to try to get his way. You know, you don't have to fight with the 4-year-old, you know, just like the 20-year-old doesn't have to fight with the 2 8-year-olds. I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? It doesn't work. Jameson said to me, I remember because he was 7, and he goes, they were acting like boys, man, farts in a frying pan. They were woo, woo, woo. You know how they are. They destroy everything just by being who they are. I mean, they do not sit. We were at a recovery conference in Lafayette, Louisiana a couple weekends ago. And there was 4 little girls, and they were like 5 or 4 or 5, 6, somewhere in there. Little girls. And they were all sitting at this little table with all their little dollies. They had these suitcases full of dollies, you know, and they're sitting there for 2 hours playing with this dollies, and they don't even get up. And I'm like, oh my God, that is the difference between boys and girls. In general, I mean, it's a generalization because some boys can sit down and
Do Legos.
do Legos and have that focus, you know. And some girls cannot sit, okay? So it's kind of a generalization. Everybody has different brains. But the truth is that, in general, little girls do that. My kids never did, right? So you have to kind of know where your kids are at, too. But Jameson said to me when he was 7, he goes, "Mommy, am I acting 7 today?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, honey, you really are. You sure are 7 today." So anyway, anything else with punishment? Punishment, remember, is to inflict pain or injury.
That's emotional pain, right? Not
That
just
can include.
physically.
That can include emotional pain. That can include. You think back to your childhood, and were some of your worst memories emotional hurts?
Yeah.
Mine were. Okay, so to inflict pain or injury, aggression can be verbal, physical, or emotional. All right, and then what's discipline mean?
Structure.
Teaching them.
Yes, structure. Routine. What did we say about routine and structure?
It's essential.
It creates a sense of security for children.
Yes, it creates a sense of security. Like when you got to treatment, you felt as though there was no ground underneath you, right? It's like, what is happening? Everything's changing. Everything's different. I don't know what to expect. I don't know all this stuff. I don't know the routine. I keep forgetting stuff. Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm supposed to be here. I'm getting in trouble, right? Without a routine, it feels as though they don't have any ground underneath them. But with a routine and structure, and think about when you're out in the life, how much routine and structure is there? Not much, okay? And when you have routine and structure, what it does is it creates a very organized brain. They start to understand, they kind of know what to expect, right? They kind of know what comes next. It gives them a sense of efficacy and power in their lives, which they have very little, right? I mean, how much of the time do they get to pick what they're doing and when they're doing it? Very little. The older they get a little bit more. You know, as the older your kids get of age, you know, the more that you want them to be making more of their decisions. You don't want to be having them making less and less of their decisions. You want them to be having more capacity to make their own decisions. You know what I'm saying?
Solve their own problems.
Yeah, to solve their own problems and make their own decisions and make their own choices for themselves. Otherwise, they're going to go off to college and just like go nutty with whatever they want because there's nobody to have the hammer on them. Does that make sense? I don't think I communicated that very well, but
I think you
You
did.
get the
if you
gist
don't
of
allow
it.
your children to learn and problem solve on their own, then they won't be able to do it when they're adults, and that will lead them into bad shit.
that's right. That's right. You got to teach them these things. So, and somebody said discipline is to teach. So, structure and routine, when we wake up in the same place and we have, we put our head on the same pillow. My kids sleep on the couch once in a while. We'll pull out the hide of bed. We have a popcorn party and we let them pass out on the couch. And, we have fun times like that on the weekends too sometimes. Or birthday parties or whatever. But in general, they're going to bed in the same bed. They're having the same pillow. They, the same people are in the house every night. That wasn't true when we were out there, right? Had people in and out all the time, right? And so when
Sometimes
we
you didn't even know where you were gonna sleep.
Exactly. And we'd sleep here. How many times did you let them stay up till all hours of the night with the hope that they would sleep in?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? How often did they really sleep in? I mean, never long enough, right? To serve me, right? Parenting is very inconvenient. Very inconvenient. It's very good though. You'd be very, you can't, we are people who tend to be kind of lazy. Just speaking from my own experience. Physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally. I'd rather have you change so I don't have to. Thank you very much. I'd rather have you do this for me rather than me. Thank you very much. And parenting flies in the face of that. You cannot be physically, emotionally, spiritually lazy raising a kid. You have to take the lead. And you have to do it. You can't even count on your spouse to do it. Because it doesn't matter what they do. It matters what I do. Right? All right, structure and routine develops an organized brain. Discipline means to teach. The best way we teach is through role modeling, right? What else does it look like to discipline?
Compassion.
Okay, discipline looks like compassion, doesn't it?
Well,
Where you have a
there's
degree
some-
of understanding
Yes.
of where your kid's at, rather than expecting them to be somewhere they're not. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
So, yeah, we want to have some compassion, and compassion is usually present.
Like when your daughter wants to paint her nails and gets it all over the bathroom sink.
Right? Yeah. Mama said there'd be days like this, right?
I
Brianne?
say a whole lot of things.
Yeah. Brianne?
Communication
Right.
is discipline.
Communication, and that is talking and listening. Remember, communication is talking, but it's not just talking. It's also listening. And remember we talked last week about compassionate listening.
Which is when you're actually listening.
Yes.
Somebody there's a video about HALT. You hear what the person is saying, you assess what they say, you listen to the words, and then you talk. You're not busy waiting your turn to speak.
Right, because if you're just waiting your turn, you're thinking about what I think about what you're saying. Well, that ain't true, and I don't believe that. And well, I think this, and then you're not really listening to what they're saying to you. And guess what? They can tell.
Well, especially
what
by
happens
your
when you
response.
Right, but it's mostly by the feeling. When somebody's really listening to you, you feel safe, you feel heard. And there's a thing too called reflective listening, where if you don't know if you understand what they're saying, and use this with kids because you need to teach them this. Use this with kids, reflective listening. What I hear you saying is blah blah blah. Because they'll correct you. They'll say, oh no, that's not what I meant. I use it with my husband, I use it with my kids, I use it with my clients. What I hear you saying is this, and they will correct you when you're off, right?
Can't you use that with them also when you're, if they're not agreeing with you on something? Cause, like, if me and you were to say have an issue, you would say what your issue is, and then what I hear you say is,
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like,
Yeah, it's
You use that with your boss, or-
it's a
Yeah.
method of communication that works in a lot of ways. To use it with your kids, and so you can use it with conflict resolution. You can use it in a lot of ways. And you're trying to listen and you repeat, because real communication is not just with what I said. Real communication means that you have heard what I intended.
So like I
Right?
think that was you just making sure that I heard what you said correctly, like not even just an issue, just like
Yeah.
being able to learn different
Yes,
ways.
absolutely. And that's why it's important to teach your kids how to use reflective listening, because they're always learning. So you say to your kid, I've asked you to put away your shoes and hang up your book bag. What would I like you to do? And I'm asking them to reflect back. And they say, put away my shoes and hang up my book bag. And you're like, good thinking, buddy. That's right. Because I don't mind a little attitude. Because we can work with that.
That's
As
what I
long as
tell
they're
my
willing
kids,
to take
yeah.
the actions.
Right. You can be mad or you upset about
Yeah.
it, but we gotta get this
Doesn't
done.
matter how you feel, it matters what you do, because the anger will go away. Feelings come and go, man. If there's anything that I've known, that I've learned, is that feelings come and go. This too shall pass. So if you're having a really great day,
That
this
will
too shall pass. Because you will hit the skids. You will have bad days in recovery. You will, just like everybody else. And you can find that you can stay clean and sober with bad days. Because
I
you will
did
find
yesterday.
a different way to live.
We talked about that in the meeting last night.
Good.
Is that, somebody said, I used to have bad years, now I just have bad days.
Nice. Yeah. I used to have a bad life, dude, and I made it that way.
Right.
It wasn't anybody else, you know. I find it amazing that I used to be angry, resentful about something every single day.
Well, what was
The
your
thing with-
affirmation today?
Life is like a roller coaster. You can either scream or enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
It was
Life is an
mine.
adventure. That's what my spiritual advisor says.
And it's just like, if you're once you're in recovery, at least you're surrounded by people that actually do care to help.
Mm-hmm.
Who actually have real.
Even if they
It
don't
may
care,
not
they
always
still
be fun, but
understand.
it's always
Right.
real.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, not everybody in the rooms is gonna be
Not just
authentic,
life in
but
general may not
yeah.
always be fun, but it'll always be real.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. Okay. So what else with discipline and communication?
Eye
Oh.
contact.
Yeah.
That your motives behind whatever it is that you're displaying or whatever it is that you're
Trying to get across.
trying to get across is doing exactly what you want for your kids.
So you want your intention
are not to inflict pain or injury.
is not to
rather
inflict pain
to-
or control, because this is very controlling, to control, right? And this is to empower. Power is like a candle with a huge flame, right? Me empowering someone else can never diminish my light. It just gives me a greater light to see by.
And control is like a brush fire.
Yeah, control is like, well, there's no authenticity. I'm in charge. You don't know nothing. I'm
big,
important. You're not.
little,
This
I'm
is why.
smart, you're
This is
dumb.
why my husband and I refuse to fight. Somebody told me one time years ago, and my husband and I have been together 16 years, and we met in recovery, and we love our life today, but we've been together for a long time. I mean, that's a long time for us. I know a lot of people have been together a lot longer, but
Yell at each other.
we don't, because we decided, we made a conscious decision when we started dating 16 years ago that to fight would be pure self-centeredness, okay? And I actually had somebody say to me like 10 years ago that if you don't fight, you're not real, and it's not honest or something. And I'm like,
Bullshit.
oh, it's very honest. It's very dishonest to think to live with fighting. It's not for lack of opportunity that we have not fought and that we don't argue. It's not for lack of opportunity. It's because we both have spiritual programs of action, right? So I work with my spiritual advisor. He works with his. And then whenever we come together, we don't have to deal with all the garbage. I don't go to him and tell him how he needs to change so I can be okay, right? Because if I'm going to fight and yell at somebody, I might as well say, screw you. You're not important. I'm the only one that counts in this relationship because I'm the only one that knows what I'm talking about. That's what I might as well say. If I'm insisting on my way, if I'm yelling and hollering, right? And we decided that if we were going to truly love each other, active care and concern. If I'm screaming and yelling at you, how much am I concerned about your growth and well-being? Not at all. In that moment, I am not loving you. Does that make sense? Doesn't mean that there's not an appropriate time for yelling. When might that be? In your relationships, what might be an appropriate time for yelling?
I can't think
Or
of
someone's in danger.
Danger! But if your voice is all day long, How much is your kid going to hear you when they're running out in the street?
They're not.
They're not, because they've toned you out. Does that make sense? Watch, because you'll watch in your homes. You're going to take this, you're going to go into your home, you're going to find what works, you're going to find what doesn't work. Does that make sense? And you're going to laugh because you're like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. You have so much power to help your kids learn all these things and embody these things, and it doesn't happen overnight, and at the end of the day, you're going to just be like,
FML.
tired sometimes, because it is really hard to face yourself when you're parenting your kids, because that's who you're coming face to face with. When you're angry, remember, it's not the kid. I have to deal with my anger and address the kid without that. Now, it doesn't mean that I live this Pollyanna life that my kids never see me mad, because if they've done something that's really wrong, or they've hurt each other, or they've done something that's really against the things, against the rules, right? I'd rather have you have 5 rules that you enforce all the time than 10 rules that you enforce half the time, right? But if they do something that's really wrong, I let them know that I'm disgruntled, that I'm upset, that I'm even angry, that that's not okay. And we don't talk to each other like that in this house, and we don't treat each other like that in this house. And the energy is conveyed, and I don't have to yell at them for them to know that I have a feeling. It's okay to have feelings. I let my kids have feelings all the time. Tell them all the time, it's okay to be angry. It is never okay to hit. It's okay to be angry. It is not okay to scream at your brother. It's okay to be angry. It's not okay to throw your toys. Right? Does that make sense? So you let them have their feelings, but we learn how to handle our feelings in appropriate ways. Does that make sense? You teach them what to do. You teach them what not to do. The problem with punishment is it doesn't teach the kid what to do. It punishes them for not having the skill. This teaches the skill. Seems like it takes more time, because you have to maintain your composure. You have to find your center. You have to be in a position of neutrality. Does that make sense? In order to do this. Right? This doesn't work very well, because it's about control. What's that?
It's repetitive.
This is repetitive. It seems like you're always doing with the same thing. This seems like it takes more time, but your kids will learn more with this, and they will grow more with this, and they will learn how to solve their own problems.
They respond better.
They learn to respond better. It will always get worse before it gets better.
Oh, God.
It will always get worse before it gets better, right? It just is how it is, man. Spend time with your kids this week. Connect with them. Let them know how much you love them. Do not use them to get your emotional needs met. That's what you have your sisters in recovery for, right? Doesn't mean that you don't love your kids, but don't use your
God
kids,
for my sponsor.
right? What's that?
I said, thank God for my sponsor.
Yeah, no doubt, right? Thank God for guides, right? For what I call the way showers. Thank God for my way showers. All right. I think that's it. Okay. For today. That's it.
For today. Is this the only class you record?